Well, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? So today we are gonna be tackling the Ninth Lord series again after a fun-filled marriage video. So today we're gonna be covering Ninth Lord in the 8th house and what happens when the planet that controls your 9th house is sitting in the 8th house in your horoscope. And obviously, if you do not know where your 9th Lord is placed and what planets are controlling your 9th house, for all this cool information about your chart, for that check out the links here and check out my full astrological report, including my books, Astrology, Conjunction, and Aspects of the Speed of Light, that actually come free with the report. So, 9th house, what is 9th house? 9th house is your higher belief, religious beliefs, philosophical beliefs, spiritual beliefs. It's the beliefs that was instilled by your father, your gurus, your teachers. It represents law. It represents following a certain law and lifestyle. It represents post-grad education, like doctorate, master's, or PhD. It represents studying in foreign lands, taking foreign journeys to educate your philosophical and spiritual mind. This is why higher education and travel through higher education is also seen from this placement. So what happens when the planet that controls this thing goes into the 8th house? Well, what is the 8th house? 8th house represents death, rebirth, life, represents sudden transformation, sudden ups and downs, surgeries, occult, mysticism, things that are buried underground, minerals, gems, petroleum. It's a house of your sexual activities. So it's a pretty intense and interesting house. I guess the one word that can describe this placement is intense. Okay. So let's say when 9th Lord goes into the 8th house. First of all, this is for people who actually know what the concept of Mahadasha is and Dasha Pravesh. What this does in the time period of the planet that you run into that is controlling your 9th house and sitting in the 8th house, definitely this placement always changes your belief system. Completely transforms your belief system in religion and spirituality with this kind of a placement. If you run through the time period of this planet, what this shows is that this is like 100% I've seen. It's not even like a 80% chance or 90% chance. 100 out of 100 in my own analysis, I've seen that when 9th Lord is placed in the 8th house, one completely rejects formal religion, one rejects formal philosophy and spirituality. These people have a hard time following man-made rules. They have a hard time following teachings of a book that's their ancestors have been saying, oh, it was written by some god. What this does, this placement, it makes your belief and philosophy suddenly take a transformation towards believing in the mystical side of life. What is after death? What happens when you die? What is mysticism, astrology, occult, numerology, tarot, magic, tantric, siddhis, tantra, dealing with ghosts and dealing with haunted things. People who are interested in paranormal can have this because their belief is that, hey, there's something outside this three-dimensional living world that we live in. So this always tends to change these people's beliefs, and especially what happens is with this placement, when you travel, when you're traveling and you're going to different places, whether it's spiritual or not, traveling changes your experience dramatically. You have dramatic experiences through traveling that changes your belief system about different aspects of your life, depending upon what planet controls this house. But mainly, your religious, philosophical, and spiritual belief really take a nosedive to 360 degree. Perhaps you went to, let's say, Sedona. Like when I do my career consultations, I have recommended certain people, hey, the way your astrocartography chart is, you should go to Sedona, and that will completely change your mind about what you're trying to do in life. Or go to, Peru or something. And that's one of the biggest reasons, is because traveling to spiritual place can suddenly change your spiritual belief. You may find a mystic there, you may find somebody who believes in all sorts of mysticism, and you suddenly get interest invoked in the occult. And the reason why I say this especially is for my own Dasha Pravesh. Like if you know the concept of Dasha Pravesh, my previous Dasha, that's what happened. And I suddenly took a turn towards finding interest in mysticism, finding interest in, occult and science. And even now in the new Dasha, it's the same thing. I have the same alignment that can bringing me even more intense interest and experiences in the mystical world. So all of these things can change. Shows that suddenly you may leave your higher education and pursue things related to mysticism, or you may suddenly change what you're pursuing for your higher education, and you'll go into research, because 8th house is research, because everything in the 8th house involves digging deep and looking into things, analyzing things, which is what? Research. So people with 9th lord in the 8th house can suddenly change their educational field to research, scientific research, historical research, paleontologist, anybody who is digging deep. Suddenly you go from being an English major to a manufacturing major who wants to learn how to produce oil. Actually, an English major is really not going to get you anywhere, but yeah. So that's what happened with these kind of beliefs. Okay. This is also, in a negative way, can show somebody who does not suddenly may not like to follow the law. Suddenly finds law to be a restriction. Like, let's say if you are living in Middle East country, you're a woman. You run through your 9th lord in the 8th house Mahadasha. Suddenly you feel like, why do I have to wear a burqa? Why do I have to hide my face? Why don't I have the right to do this, this, and this? And next thing you know, you're getting in trouble with the law because you're not following those laws. And that happens every day. And most of the people who really want to do these things suddenly, like if you suddenly have like restriction against the law, these are the placements are very significant in that. Okay. And but remember, depending upon what planet controls the 9th house and goes into the 8th house, will differentiate these things and will bring different type of sudden interest and sudden changes in life. So let's discuss that. So let's say if Sun controls your 9th house and Sun goes into the 8th house, what this shows is that you have a very dark personality. Your personality, your ego, your self-esteem was always developed whenever you're tackling the darker subjects in life. If somebody was to talk to you about death, your confidence, your personality just comes out because you love discussing these things. Shows that the father kind of showed you the darker side of life. Father kind of instilled the properties of following the path of, occult, mysticism, or just, dark, experiences. Now, this can be positive or negative. This can be in a way that, hey, your father was a astrologer or mystic. Or your father kind of abused you in such a way that he showed you the darker side of life. Obviously, for that you have to see the impact on Sun, by aspects and by conjunctions. But shows that you may actually become a secret agent for the government, or you may follow a law that deals with wills and estates, death. You can be a lawyer who takes care of other people's assets, other people's wills and estate, because that's what 8th house represents. And also shows that your relationships with your teachers, your professors, kind of takes a nosedive. You either do not care to have teachers in your life, you don't care to listen to your teachers, or you find teachers who actually show you the darker side of life, and those are the teachers that you get along with, especially authoritative figures. I should actually say yes, with authoritative figures with the Sun placement, you don't do well. Moon controls the 9th house, Moon goes in the 8th house, shows that the mother was a communicator of the mystic. Mother was always spoke to you about astrology, numerology, all things related to the mystical side of life. shows that mother dealt with a lot of transformation in her life. Mother dealt with a lot of ups and downs in her life, and looking at her life, it kind of changed your belief system and your spiritual belief system. It also shows that your mind is always into the darker philosophy of life. The spirituality is always into the occult. These people are always interested in the occult, always interested in, what is death, what is life. They make great researchers. They make great, professors and teachers who are kind of very good at researching work. Like anytime the research comes into play, their mind just lights up. They're like, oh my God, I'm gonna investigate something. I'm gonna look at something. Let's say if Mercury controls your 9th house. Mercury goes into the 8th house, shows that one like to communicate regarding the darker side of life, the occult side of life. One can definitely become a writer of life and death scenarios, of astrology and numerology. One also suddenly finds the fact that education is not going to fulfill their desires. Their desires will come through digging deep for themselves, for the truth of this world. So these are the people who either may not be interested in higher education, or who may leave higher education because they do not get along with their professor, what they're teaching them. This is a highly intelligent Mercury. And Mercury feels that I can do it on my own. And here, because 9th house is your higher belief, higher goals, higher dharmic, placement of life, 8th house is also known as the house of revolution, about revolutionizing something. And because Mercury also represents business, besides communication and speech, shows these are the people who can change societies with their research. These are the people who can change the landscape of the world through their business. They make great entrepreneurs because their higher beliefs goes into brewing something from beneath, and then it suddenly comes out like a volcano. Shows that their ability to sexually get involved with someone requires them to be involved with people who loves the darker side of sex, darker side of life, like probably into dungeon stuff, into all sorts of weird toys. It can represent these things because Mercury actually represents true sexual energy. Mercury is your wandering mind, like the prince, and prince wants to experience different things. Here you can do really great at research work. Analytically and with logical intelligence being used for a higher learning will always go into research. Let's say if Venus controls your 9th house, goes into the 8th house, shows traveling and a higher philosophical belief system dramatically changes your sexual life. You meet with people when you're traveling that can show you the real sexual side of life. They can really change your sex appeal. They can change your philosophy regarding sex. Shows you run into women who are highly sexual. You run into women who love to engage in mystical things, mysticism, the darker side of life. You have relationships with women very secretly when you're traveling. Like you travel, you have your affairs, you have your sexual escapades, and then you just come back. But it remains a secret what you do when you travel aboard. Shows that a female, you will meet a wife for a man who will always be involved in darker philosophy of life, who may be involved in dealing with life and death scenarios in medicine, who may take care of dead bodies, who may perform autopsies. So these are the people you can run into. Or you may run into a woman or wife who can take advantage of you and bring you down to the lowest point of your life with this kind of a placement. So some people have to be careful the type of women that they interact with. It's not just regular relationships, just like even if you're a female and you have run into other women, be careful that they don't drag you down with them. Let's say if Mars controls your 9th house, Mars goes into the 8th house. This person can definitely become a detective. The law side of life really helps them investigate things. They become natural investigators for the government or being a lawyer. Like in murders, you are a criminal attorney. Here, Mars finds its true energy and true passion by physical activities that invokes the occult energy, like tantric siddhi, tantric sex. These people want to invoke the other dimension by physical activities, physical dancing, like those spiritual dances like people get involved in that can invoke certain spiritual energies. Mars can be involved with this position. Here shows that your brother, like any brother type figure or brother himself, may kind of give you lower sense of philosophy, lower sense of spiritual belief system. Or your brother may transform your life. Male siblings, male friends in your life, whenever you're traveling with them, hanging out with them, they will transform your belief system. They will change how you think in this world. But at the same time, this shows that the person has a lot of hidden strength within them, a lot of higher hidden strength. Meaning these are the people who can become those sudden dictators. They have the ability to maneuver behind people with their intelligence, with their philosophical beliefs and spiritual beliefs. They are able to dig deep for things. These are the people who may go into higher studies of engineering, civil engineering, mining engineering. Let's say if, Let's say if Jupiter rules your 9th house, goes into the 8th house, shows your higher intelligence will only be coming through occult science, through research work, scientific research, occult research regarding life and death. Your whole belief, because remember, Jupiter is exactly what 9th house is. So whatever I've spoken about 9th house is suddenly becoming the opposite. If you're non-religious, you will become religious. If you're religious, you'll become non-religious. And these are like the lifelong things. So if you have 9th Lord in the 8th house, for lifelong, you will not be able to really believe 100% in religion. You will become a skeptic. You can become agnostic or atheist. And usually most of the time though, these people make great astrologers. They make great intuitive people who are spiritually in tuned with the darker and the most mystical side of the power. Let's say if Saturn controls the 9th house, Saturn goes into the 8th, this can show that your higher belief system, your higher philosophical, spiritual, religious beliefs, it tremendously takes a toll on you. You trying to follow any kind of the 9th house things can become a life and death scenario. Like you feel like your life is being sucked out when you're trying to read any religious books, you're trying to read any philosophical books. You are more interested in the darker side of life. What is death? What is religion? Why do I follow religion? They become very disciplined about investigating the darker side of life. Because remember, Saturn is a slow-moving planet, so it'll obviously bring their religious and higher philosophical beliefs, but in long due time. Like in your 40s and mid-30s is where you will truly grasp the value of the 9th house. This can show that somebody may have, tremendous amount of interest in law. You may not believe in religion. You may not believe in, spiritual things. But when it comes to law, you're hardcore. You're able to become a great, attorney, a judge, regarding criminal investigation, regarding murder investigation. These people can make great entrepreneurs regarding oil, steel, petroleum industries, because their higher dharma can go into digging deep for things. So especially with Mars and Saturn, actually with both, you can be in the revolutionizing the industry of jewelry or petroleum, gas, things of that nature. And you may actually study the law. You may study mineral minerals, or you may go into biomedical studies, especially if Jupiter is looking at Saturn. But if these people go into the occult, they become the most strict teachers. Their belief system is hardcore. Like, these are the people who can read all the occult books and will remember everything. Their source of earning will become law. Their source of earning will become, going into the darker side of life. Because actually it's with every planet, because every planet will look at your second house. And you'll know, especially when my magazine comes out in July, as to why second house is so important regarding career. Okay? So guys, this was my analysis of ninth lord in the 8th house. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And again, if you want to know where your ninth lord is placed and other planetary placements, for that check out the links here, where my full astrological report is, and my free books. Otherwise, we'll see you later.